Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to talking about one of the least funny self-proclaimed comedians out there, Lilly Singh. Lilly, also known as Superwoman here on YouTube, she recently started her very own late-night talk show on NBC, as most of us know already because its cringy premiere has been covered rigorously by many YouTubers, including yours truly. But there is a new, more recent controversy surrounding the show that most haven't gotten into yet. Last week, the woke culture that Lilly has supported since day one, they finally turned on their new brown media darling. Apparently, Singh made a joke about a certain minority group that ruffled the social justice warriors' feathers, and now, surprisingly, Lilly even decided to cave in and quickly apologize for it. This is already pretty lame from the get-go too, but if you keep in mind all the other bad race-based jokes she's made on her show already, mostly involving shitting on white people, well, it really makes you think here. I'm not one to ask for apologies or anything, but Lilly has certainly been much crueler and less funny in the ways she's mocked Americans lately, on her talk show and on her YouTube channel for years. And I certainly don't ever remember her apologizing or walking back her pretty offensive comments against us. Just saying. I have some examples of that for later too, which we'll get into eventually, but first, let's start with the beginning of today's new controversy story. An article from New York Daily News has more details. It's called Lilly Singh Apologizes for Problematic Joke She Made on Her New Late Night Talk Show. Check this one out. Lilly Singh may be a late night newbie, but she's already dealing with controversy and handling it like a pro, if you say so. Singh took to Twitter Friday to make a very important and heartfelt apology for a joke she told on the series premiere of her NBC talk show, A Little Late with Lilly Singh. Next, there's a link to Lilly's apology on Twitter. It reads, "A very important and heartfelt apology, I'm sorry, and thank you for helping me grow," followed by an overly long and extensive explanation attached to it there. I won't bore you with reading the whole thing, but here are the cliff notes. Basically, the joke Lilly made was a reaction to seeing a picture of Jessica Alba's children. They had towels wrapped around the top of their heads to dry their hair off, and Lilly immediately responded, saying, "Don't worry, it's like my Punjabi friends." This was of course a joke about how some Indian people wear turbans on their heads that kind of look like these towels in the picture they're talking about. And actually, I don't see the big deal about this at all, really. As I said earlier, Lilly has said plenty of other actually offensive stuff, and she's been actually an low-key anti-white racist in the past too, usually involving her making jokes shitting on us. So it's funny how she never apologizes or walks back her overt dislike of most Americans, but if she makes this one small and accurate reference to a subset of Indian people that most of us haven't even heard of, well, that's crossing the line, at least according to these politically correct SJWs and left-wing woke culture, which Lilly has become sort of a figurehead of. And now, the left is eating its own, as they've been known to do, and they're having a sort of purity spiral within their ranks too, which is revealing a lot to us as well. Lilly doesn't care about being anti-white and showing her pretty overt racism toward the majority of our nation, night after night. But if one of her woke minorities gets upset, a minority from a country across the globe, if they get offended, well, Singh will quickly kowtow to them and self-flagellate, and this shows just where her real priorities lie. Next, Lilly attempts to justify her actions, which really isn't something a person who's actually remorseful does. A good apology comes with no excuses or explanations, but Lilly really isn't good at anything, so her apology comes with many. First, she says this was her first episode of her show that she ever taped, and she was very nervous too. Then she says this is all new to her and she's still learning, and she also appreciates this teachable moment, whatever that means. And this to me just shows how afraid she is of this cancel culture, a cancel culture her and her fellow liberals and SJWs have been in favor for forever. Lilly knows if you say one wrong thing around them, you can become a total outcast, and that's why she quickly took this line back, apologized, made excuses, and even she got NBC to cut the joke out of the episode's reruns and online clips. Basically, she wants to pretend this snafu didn't happen and rewrite the history of it, and she's hoping her show doesn't tank because of this bad situation. If Lilly's woke audience stops watching, then who would really be watching her show at all? I know most people won't, especially average Americans, because why should we watch her? Lilly is an unfunny diversity hire who shits on us every chance that she gets. And then to see her apologize to another foreign group of people for a joke that's far less offensive, well, that's just the brown icing on this bullshit cake, and it really makes me dislike this hack even more. Really, if Lilly should be apologizing to anyone, it should be whites and Americans, because despite her getting rich off our country's booming economy and her getting boosted and promoted by our media companies like YouTube and NBC, well, despite all of that, and despite us making Singh a millionaire, she still shows so much disdain for white Americans. It's kind of disgusting. But again, I'm not here to beg for apologies from anyone. That's lame. Unless, of course, Lilly wants to apologize for being tragically unfunny and taking this late night show hosting gig from another person who could have actually made us all laugh. Back Back to the article for now though. The YouTuber turned late night host, who also turned 31 Thursday, walked back a joke she now finds disrespectful and problematic. On the episode, Singh wrote that she stupidly made a comparison about turbans that I'd like to apologize for. My guest was explaining how her kids were embarrassed. I saw them with towels twisted on their heads and I said, "Don't worry, it's like my Punjabi friends." She explained, "In the moment, my thought process was, don't be embarrassed, I think that's dope. But in hindsight, I recognized that was a disrespectful and problematic joke to make that has a lot of painful history behind it, and I'm very sorry." Painful history behind it? What the heck does that even mean? I don't think that joke sounds very bad at all, actually. Well, it's bad in the sense that it's an obscure reference that most of her audience won't get, and it's also not funny, but it's not bad like it's offensive or problematic, as they put it. Really, Lilly just pissed off the wrong group here. And the left-wingers who support her and prop her up, they're also the same kinds of people who will quickly lash out and cancel anyone who says the wrong thing even once. Now, Lilly may survive this kerfuffle here, but if she's not careful, she's not going to last much longer in this field. And this just goes to show how terrible it is to be a comedian these days too. You pretty much can't joke about anything anymore. There will always be some SJW who gets triggered about something, but thankfully, some major comedians are starting to clap back, and they're making irreverent comedy specials, and they're also succeeding despite left-wingers crying about them. Dave Chappelle and Bill Burr are good examples of this, and they're not afraid to buck the system and call out PC police and cancel culture while they do their bits. But Lilly Singh is showing now that she's quite the opposite of them. Not only is she not funny, she's also trying to be a woke comic who panders to the PC crowds instead of calling them out. But regardless of her doing the best she can here, even she is not immune to these silly, problematic claims like what we're seeing this week. Following the teachable moment, rather than another opportunity to divide and attack, Singh assured fans the stupid joke was scrapped from the episode and clips online. "This is all new to me," Singh said. "I'm still learning and growing. I know the line for comedy is subjective, so I can only do what I feel is right. And in this case, taking full ownership and apologizing feels right. No ands, ifs, or buts. It was wrong. I hope you continue to make space for me to make mistakes and improve from them." When Singh, a Toronto native, took over Carson Daly's 1:35 a.m. last call slot, she became the first bisexual person to host a show on late night TV. At the moment, she is the only woman in such a role on a Big Four network. Okay, wow. First of all, while Lilly claims to be giving an unfettered apology here, she's actually qualifying it quite a bit and trying to justify why she made that mistake a lot, saying she's new and this is her first recording and such. And you can't make excuses and claim you're giving a full apology without ands, ifs, or buts when this apology clearly has ands, ifs, and buts in it. And that phrase is actually usually ordered as ifs, ands, and buts. But that's besides the point. Next, let's talk about this glowing outro this reporter tries to give Lilly at the end here and discuss how it's all bullshit. First of all, being from Toronto is hardly something to brag about. If I was Canadian, God forbid, but if I was, I would have the decency to pretend I wasn't, like how many famous Hollywood celebrities do, like Seth Rogen, Jim Carrey, and Justin Bieber. Regardless though, the ending of this gets even worse, as they claim Lilly is the first bisexual person to host a show on late night TV, if you say so. First of all, for all we know, there have been many other bi people who hosted long before this. Stephen Colbert looks like he might like to get tag teamed by black male dudes on the weekends, but that's just my perspective on him. Perhaps Lilly is the first open bisexual to host a late night show, but surely others might have been bi before her, especially considering the ridiculously low standards of entry they have for this title now. I mean, for all we know, Lilly could just be making this shit up. Remember, we've never seen Lilly date, kiss, or even hold hands with a girlfriend publicly, ever. In addition, according to the internet, she's been dating Youssef Erekat for 4 years now. So was she bisexual before getting with her longtime boyfriend in 2015? Or is this dude bringing in other girls for three-ways or something? Either way, it's all questionable to say the least. And in my opinion, Lilly just claims to be bi to get more attention, and it's clearly working because every time she gets brought up anywhere, people mention she's bi like it makes her a superhero or something. Or dare I say, a superwoman? You see what I did there? But really, she probably made out with one chick in college once or twice, and then claimed she was bi since then, in order to get woke SJW points and ass pats from liberals in the media. Lastly, the article finished with the claim that Lilly is the only woman hosting a late night show on a Big Four network. And as I went over in my last Lilly video extensively, this really doesn't mean much. Not only did they have to bend and restrict this claim for it to be true, limiting the hosting jobs considered to late night TV only and to the 4 major networks exclusively, but also the Big Four aren't as big or relevant as they used to be. Just as many people watch cable shows now, which would include the female hosted Full Frontal with Samantha Bee show. Or they could count streaming services like Netflix, which has produced a number of talk shows with females, including multiple series with Chelsea Handler, who also hosted a late night show on cable before these two. So with that said, let's not pretend Lilly is some groundbreaking, ahead of her time, first female in late night TV or whatever. Not only are females hosting late night shows on cable and streaming, but also they even host more shows in daytime programming and on cooking shows and whatnot. And often, women host these shows even more than men. In the end, I want to finish with one more tidbit about Lilly that I didn't get to address yet. Last video, we talked about her opening monologue and how bad and anti-white it was. But there was one part I want to go over now that we didn't get to before. And in light of this new story and the recent apology, this bit is more relevant now than ever. First, Lilly starts this section of her monologue off by saying it's tough for her out there. I guess because she's a minority woman and she thinks life is hard for her or something. I don't know if it is, but this is a rather odd statement coming from a multi-millionaire who made $10 million last year. Not to mention she's been handed a great deal of her success too, despite not earning it, and it's been given to her simply because she's a minority woman in the first place, attributes which she says hinder her success. But let's get past the hypocrisy of that intro for now. Next, what Lilly says is that white people see someone like her hosting a show, and that supposedly terrifies us, which is absolutely ridiculous. No one is scared of you, Lilly. We just don't like you because you're not funny, and you don't deserve to be here on the show. Also, in addition, you're strikingly anti-white and racist, which is rather ironic coming from someone who claims to be woke. Then, Lilly ends this bit with another lie, saying white people are afraid minorities are taking our jobs, which she then unironically follows it up with saying they actually are trying to do that, and she threatens us by saying she's going to take more of our jobs. Pretty telling for Lilly to say and do, and it shows how her audience views us too. If you even joke about an Indian person wearing a turban, which they often do, well, that's going to spark outrage and warrant an immediate apology and everything. But at the same time, if you shit on white people repeatedly and directly and openly, even making false claims about us that aren't true, and also saying you're going to take our jobs straight up, putting us on the street without any money, well, apparently that's a-okay for radical leftists like this. And this really goes to show where SJWs and Lilly Singh stand and where their priorities lie. What do you guys think? Was Lilly's first joke earlier offensive? Should she have apologized for commenting like that? And how long do you think Lilly will last in late night TV, especially considering the PC joke police are already circling her like a bunch of vultures? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see y'all next time.